What an honor and a privilege to be here to speak to you today. I'm just going to share a little bit about who I am and what I do. I was actually born in America, and then I was whisked away to the Cayman Islands, one of the Caribbean islands near Jamaica, when I was about a year and a half or 2 years old. And that's where I grew up, and I got a good education under the Caribbean system. And you all should well know, uh, Caribbean teachers, they're just different. It's not like here in America. When I moved to America in my teenage years, I moved back here. They did not treat you the same way. It's like they were afraid of the students here in America, but the teachers in the Caribbean, they would pull you in front of the classroom and they would beat you in front of everybody. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. And so I was always in trouble. And my nickname from 5 years old was Trouble. And that was given to me by the principal of the school. And, one of the things that these Jamaican teachers, we had a lot of Jamaican teachers, they would pull me up in front of the classroom and said, they're going to lick the devil out of me, because it seemed like I always had trouble on my mind. So I kind of grew up thinking that I was the devil, because the amount of times they would tell me they're going to beat the devil out of me. And it was one of those things that I could either identify with or I could choose to overcome. And I wasn't the biggest kid in the class. I was actually one of the smallest in the school. And I was not really good at sports. One of the things where, you have, like, say, soccer, you're getting ready to have a soccer game during recess, and you have the two biggest boys. They would pick, each one of them get a pick, and they'd always pick the best. And then the next one picked the next best, and it'd go down the line. Well, it would be kind of like this for me. They would pick all their people, and there'd be myself and two others, maybe three people left to pick from. And the captain whose turn it was to pick, he'd look at the three of us and he'd look at me and he'd say, you can have all three of them. That was the mentality, that he felt that by having me and these other two guys or whoever else on his team, we would be a greater cause for them to lose. He'd rather play 3 or 4 men down than have us on his team with the potential to lose. So that was kind of a stigma that I had growing up, that I was just not good enough. And I couldn't compete well in sports. I tried to play. Well, one thing I was good at was sales. And what I would do, and this was in primary school, I would hop the fence during recess, and or crawl under the fence and go through the bushes and go to the convenience store up the road, and I would buy some candy, and then I'd come back and I'd sell it in school. And by the time I was in middle school and high school, I was making $100 to $200 a day selling candy. That was my identity. Now, fast forward a few years, and I moved to the United States because it was something that I wanted to do. I wanted to move back home and see other family, be a part of the education system here. And so I finished up high school and then went on to college in the United States. And it's like the land of opportunity, where you believe that you have more things available, more opportunities available, and you can get wealth in a faster way by living in the United States. Well, that was back then, 20 years ago. Nowadays, friend, you can do whatever you want to do anywhere in the world because of the internet and because of social media, because the world is becoming a smaller place. So I continued on my path. I ended up getting a business degree in business administration, and I went on to become a teacher. So I actually taught high school for a little bit. I taught high school math, and I taught in a rough school district. Well, shortly after that, I left the teaching profession, and then I decided to start trading more actively. And actually, I got into trading stocks and options. You're familiar with Wall Street and trading. And I got into trading when I was 19 years old and made money, lost money. Well, after I quit teaching, I hit it real big in that summer. And I made $1.6 million in 2 months off of a small inheritance that I had received from the passing of my grandfather. Now, I could have taken that inheritance and bought a car or bought nice clothes, but my mind has always been, how can I use money to make more money and eventually be able to have a good lifestyle and be able to help other people and do good in the world. That has been my mentality. A lot of people, they can be thinking only of themselves or what they're going to do when they get a lot of money. Well, the thing is, if you don't have that in you now to help other people, then when you get there, you're going to be a greedy son of a gun when you start making money. So you got to have it in you from the beginning. Now, as I invested and traded, I ended up investing in what was called a scam. It was a stock scam. I had taken my father and my grandmother. We had driven across multiple states to meet the CEO of this company that I had seen in online chat rooms, and we're talking, and he fed us steak and lobster, and we went to this farm and we sat there and enjoyed conversations. Well, it ended up being that he was selling shares. People were buying the shares, and the money he was receiving, he would cash it out, and then he would spend it on whining and dining other investors. So I invested. I was young, 27. I invested everything I had in that company, and about a month later, the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, stepped in and halted the trading, and they said that it was a total fraud and he had made it all up, that the cars he drove, the farm that we went to with all the horses and everything was all rented. So it was a big facade. I lost everything in the blink of an eye. So 1.6 million, whoop, down the drain. You sit there and say, wow, that's crazy. How did you ever recover? Well, it's all about mindset. It's all about how you identify with your gifts and your callings. And the Bible says that a man's gifts will make room for him. So you have to discover what you're good at and go for it. You've heard the saying, nothing worth having comes easy, and no risk, no reward. If you want something, you got to work for it. You could either flip burgers, flip houses, or flip channels. Which one do you want to do? Where do you identify with? You want to flip burgers for a minimum wage job? You'll never get ahead. You'll never go further than the minimum. A mediocre person. There are minimum wage jobs for a reason. It's for a minimum skill set. If you want to achieve a greater purpose, then you've got to study. Knowledge is power. You've got to find something that you're good at and gain the knowledge in that area so that you can become better and then become the best. Sitting on a couch flipping channels, man, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to, you're going to put on the pounds from eating the pizza and leftovers in the fridge. That's all you're going to get. You need to get out and do something, attain that knowledge. So I bounced back from that $1.6 million loss. It took me time. And here's the other thing. Many people say, well, can I just be real with y'all today? That's how I am. I'm blunt. I'm real. The big thing, when I lived in the Caribbean, there wasn't an issue with color. And it took me moving to the States to realize that I wasn't supposed to like black people, because it's a racist thing that white people don't like black people. And I'm going, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. We're all human, and it shouldn't be about the color of the skin. Well, over time, I've become kind of a social activist, and I speak heavily against it very, very boldly and say it's all foolishness. The media is a propaganda tool for the rich and powerful people that they push their agenda, and they do a lot of corrupt things behind the scenes. So one of their things is to divide people. They divide people on the basis of race, religion, everything you can imagine. Anyway, social economic status, any way they can divide you, they will. So one of the things they say, oh, well, you're white, that's why you have a better opportunity to get ahead. I'm not going to sit here and argue about that, but I'm saying I never had anything really handed to me either. I had to work hard for it. I had to study and utilize my gifts. I had my one break when I received an inheritance, and then I turned it into 1.6 million, but then I lost it all. I could have moped and complained and given up and said, well, it's not going to work out for me. I guess I just didn't do it right. I can't ever get anything right. Or I can bounce back and say, how can I learn from my mistakes and what can I do differently? So fast forward a little bit, I reached out to a couple people and I had to convince some other people, show them what I could do, say, hey, put $3,000 in an account and let me show you. And then it worked up where I had made as much as $70,000 in 15 minutes on an account. And through the market, obviously, because I learned how to trade and I started trading more, and I ended up taking professional trading courses. Now, here's the other thing. They say that success comes when preparation meets opportunity. You got to prepare, and then the opportunity comes along, and then success can happen. Well, I believe that God is a big part of creating the opportunities in my life. I am called to prepare. It says we perish for lack of knowledge. We're told to prepare and study to show ourselves approved. And then when we are ready, we are mature enough and we've grown enough, we have good understanding and we trust, then he can bring the opportunities to our doorstep. So I've had opportunities presented to me, but it's only by the grace of God. It was like a miracle. I remember going to a free conference and sitting next to an elderly lady in her 70s, and it was about trading professionally. Well, at the end of the conference, it was like several hours, she said, I would really love to do this and to take on these courses, but I'd need somebody that was young and had understanding of numbers and teaching and understood this, that they could help me so that I wouldn't be lost. I said, well, I'm actually a teacher and I've been trading for a few years. I want to learn how to trade professionally. She goes, would you help me? I'll pay for everything. You want to know how much that course cost? $30,000. She paid for everything. I got a professional trading education and I helped her along the way. We got to travel to New York and Las Vegas and Miami, to different places and learn. And I was there to help her and help her to understand. That's one of those divine things that if you are preparing and choosing to be active in your preparation, then God will bring opportunities to your doorstep. You know that Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, he started Amazon as a bookstore on the internet just to sell books. And look at where it's taken him. It became the world's most powerful company. Now Tesla and Elon Musk are now neck and neck with Amazon, but Amazon does all kinds of other things. Well, let me tell you why I know I'm destined for greatness, even though it hasn't really happened on a scale of tens of millions yet, but it is going to, and hundreds of billions. I speak it into existence, name it and claim it, but at the same time, I'm preparing myself. I had a dream when I was 19. And in that dream, I was giving away 90% of what I made and keeping 10%. I woke up thinking the devil had come back to me, and where was my Jamaican teacher when I needed her to lick the devil out of me? You know, that was just a weird thought. I'm going, who in the world gives away 90%? That is the dumbest dream. Well, it's not going to be the devil giving you some dream like that, because he's all about greed. And I surely didn't come up with it on my own. It was the Spirit of God, my friend. And over the course of the next several years, confirmations came to me with different people saying things, or I'd hear that saying over again, who will give 90%? And I'll never forget it. That was in 1996. I had that dream. In 2002, I was in Bible school. I went on to Bible school after college to study ministry. And it was one of the last months of my schooling. And I was sitting in a worship service. Worship was powerful. And then I felt it come on me, said, you're going to give 90%. I'm like, okay, fine, I will. You know, I'm trying to worship you here. Will you give me a break? Leave me alone for a little bit. Please, if you give me one more confirmation, just one more confirmation, I'll do it. I'll never question it again. Because it was a hard thing. I don't know why it was so emotionally difficult to receive that I'm going to have to give away 90% of what I make. Like, how in the world am I going to do it? So I'll tell you in a second. But right after I said that, I put my head down, the music came down right away. And one of the speakers got up and walked to the podium. He said, I was just sitting over here and the Lord spoke to me and said, Everybody wants to give 10%. Who is going to give 90%? Never forget it. And I got it on video with another classmate that was in there when I talked to him about a year ago. He said, I remember that. And I thought, that's the dumbest thing. Who would ever do that? But that was you. I said, yep, that's what I'm called to do. And it's a calling. It's whatever you accept. If God calls you to do something, friend, you better do it. If you run like Jonah, he's going to have a whale swallow you up. I'm from the island, but I don't want to be eaten by a fish at all. I love to eat fish, ackee and salt fish and all kind of, anyway, let's not go there. Y'all might get hungry. So my point is that was my final confirmation. That was my fleece that I'd thrown out and said, all right, if this is going to happen, you need to tell me. Then I started seeing the power of the market, okay, in 2006. So I told you I had the dream in 96. In 2002, I had the final confirmation. In 2006, I made $1.6 million and lost it all. And then I started making, but I saw the power and I said, oh, if I'm making $10 million a year to give away 9 million and live off $1 million, man, I'm still wealthy. That's still great. Now it makes sense. I'm called in the area of finances to be a blessing to others, not for myself. Okay. What are you called to do? What lane are you going to run in? What is your gift and calling to the world? To be a blessing, not only to help people come to the knowledge of their creator, but to help others in the normal way of life, in the normal day-to-day living. What do you do to be a blessing? Are you an encourager? Write poems, encourage people. Like the young lady that came before me, speaking poems, and the other lady that's a writer. You have to do what your gifts call you to do. And right now, I know, I'll just tell you one more story and then I'll let you go out. But this is one of those things where I ended up joining a company, and in 4 days, I went from a nobody to the biggest hero, because I knew how to trade, and it was a trading company, and people were starting to join because it was like a multi-level situation. Well, one guy posted that he made a lot of gains, and I posted that I had made $44,000 in 4 days, and they couldn't believe it. They thought it was a joke, that it was just a virtual fake account, a demo account. I said, no, it's real. And the guy went and did his, came back on a demo and posted $100,000 gain in 10 minutes. Everybody was laughing. And I said, well, that's obviously fake, because you'd need 10 million to be able to make that using the leverage. So why don't you show us how you do it? Well, he challenged me. I said, all right, let me get the login for the Zoom like we're doing right now. I loaded up my screen. We looked at a couple of charts. I said, this is about to do this. It's about to go up. I'm going to buy right now. So I bought, and everybody watching, there was about 400 people watching, and we all bought. And within a few minutes, boop, it jumped. I said, we're closed out. I made about $100, just showed them how it was done. And they all made money. And they were like, holy cow, this guy is a prophet. Well, I learned how to do it. I studied what movements are, and all of a sudden I'm a prophet. I said, well, if you study and do what you're called to do and learn how to read charts or whatever you're good at, you too can be a prophet. It's just a matter of preparation. So I shot to the top, and everybody started following me, gained thousands of followers overnight. You never know when your moment will come. But when it does, you must be prepared so that you don't fall flat on your face. You don't embarrass yourself, that you don't have any issues, that skeletons in the closet that you continue to push back. You need to deal with those before your number is called, before they say it's your time to take the stage, before God says it's time. This was the moment I've called you to, and you should be ready. I ended up starting my own company, and I got a partner. I got actually a few partners. Over the course of 3 months, all 3 partners either cheated me or ripped me off to the tune of probably $150,000. Crazy. I'm like, when will this end? I don't know. Well, am I going to continue to go through these trials and tribulations and see that there's always going to be somebody that's out to get you or out for themselves? And man, it's testing for me at the same time. Will I remain humble? will I let it break me and say, I just give up? I'm going to go live somewhere and hide. No, I'm going to keep going. So I still have a large following. I still have my company. I separated from all those partners and I started a new company where I'm the sole owner, and everybody is stuck with me, and we're building a powerful concept that God gave me, and it's a multi-billion-dollar concept. And I mean, amazing. When I shared with investors, I was offered $70 million for this concept, and I turned it down because I think it's going to be worth 70 billion in 10 years or something. But that just shows the power of what God can do when you're prepared. And I had my family and friends saying, you turned down 70 million. Are you crazy? What is wrong with you, man? I said, look, you think in tens and hundreds. I think in billions. We are not the same. God has prepared me for this moment, and I'm going to be ready when that time comes. My number hasn't been called yet, but it's coming. When will your number be called? Will you be ready? I want to thank y'all for having me. It was a pleasure to be here, and I wish you all the best. So you guys have a wonderful afternoon, and think about me when you're eating that jerk chicken and curry goat, whatever y'all have in the evening. God bless you guys.